a boy is just going through, the motions of what a poetic analysis could be. I have some multiple choice questions that I'm going to pass out to you here in a little bit as well, so that you can at least get a feel for the way that those multiple choice questions would work. We'll go over them, and you can kind of get an idea as to how all this stuff is going to be when it comes to the quiz on next Wednesday. Had Sam start to do a dramatic reading, we stopped him after like 2 lines.
Yeah, Ben.
He paused at the end of every line. I'm like, there's no punctuation. Keep going.
That's what,
It's like, when the earliest stars began to move along the edges. Like, no, this isn't happening. Plus, he said possum instead of bosom at the end.
Possum.
Yes, the kid got every single multiple choice question right, Grant. So, should you miss one, I'll be like, Sam got it!
And that's
impressive.
Have you still met Sam yet?
I think I did on
Yeah.
the field trip.
Yeah. He is.
I feel sorry.
That kid's gonna pass the AP exam. And I didn't.
Why do you think he's gonna? Because he has done well.
In the moment,
I just have faith.
Yeah.
Alright, we're gonna read it, and then we're gonna kind of go over the analysis part, and we'll go back to the good old days of TPCasting. That's why we'll go over again. There was well, actually, no, I don't want to read it first. My mistake.
Yay.
Let's do TPCast first, because I want to talk about the first part. Should you go to YouTube and you look up TPCast, guess whose video shows up first?
How many views?
Oh, it's like in the thousands, I bet, at this point.
I'm at 10,000.
We'll check. I'll check. I meant to look before class and I forgot.
I'm most popular.
For whatever, apparently I was the first person to ever entitle a video TPCast.
I sang.
It's all about the titles.
From a cartoon I used to love. And I didn't do well. And it got like 10,000 views.
What TV show?
Back to back. I was at 5. I had a-
Monetize that.
Zach, you remember any of these?
No, not really.
This was from last year.
Punctuation.
No. What'd you say for the first one? No.
Tone was in the last.
Tone's not there. We got a synonym for tone, which is the A.
Author.
Attitude. Title.
Yeah, nice.
Paraphrase.
Oh, now I remember.
This is the one everyone forgets. Connotation. Shift. Theme. And then title, again, title squared. So what we mean with these title, like literally, what does the title mean to you before reading, which is why I want to come back here as before reading the poem. Paraphrase, so what would kind of be like your summary for it? This by no means would need to be word for word, line for line. Connotation, what words jump out could be because of the emotional appeal that there's going on, the connotation of it, but it also could be figurative language. There could also be words that you go, I have no idea what that word means, and I need to try to figure it out. Attitude or tone of the author, the poet, shift, any kind of shifts that you see. This could be shift in location, this could be shift in tone, could be shift in subject matter, could be shift in speaker. Theme, universal message, and then after going through all this stuff, any idea now as to what that title truly would mean? On your poem that you have for next week, be my guest to do a TPCast. TPCasts are not very fun or exciting, no matter how many views you have on a YouTube video. But I would say it can be at least helpful to get you into that, especially the attitude, the theme idea as to what the poet's trying to get across, because those things can certainly become relevant when it comes to answering some multiple choice questions for it. So, with the title being There Was a Boy, is there anything about the title that would jump out to you? I mean, it's a pretty simple 4-word title. So the past tense of the verb is kind of significant as to what happened to the boy. Generally speaking, we usually get 2 options. One a little morbid. Okay. So death or, maturity. Has he grown? Is he now a man? We don't know. The idea would be through the poem you might get an answer, but we're not too sure. The fact that we're focusing on the past tense, that there was a boy, what would you say is a likely kind of like structure or purpose of the poem then? So let's commemorate, remember. You were asking so far as rhetorical device, about nostalgia, with Flannery O'Connor, nostalgic, reminiscing, so maybe kind of remembering when, the adult was a boy, or remembering the life of a boy who has kind of passed away. We don't know, but there's probably something about remembrance or looking back. Keep in mind, we're getting all of this stuff from just a 3-letter word of was. All right, so read whole thing, then we'll come back and do a little bit of a paraphrase. There was a boy, you knew him well, ye cliffs and islands of Winander, over in Great Britain. Many a time at evening, when the earliest stars began to move along the edges of the hills, rising or setting, would he stand alone beneath the trees or by the glimmering light. And there, with fingers interwoven, both hands pressed closely palm to palm and to his mouth uplifted, he, as through an instrument, blew mimic hootings to the silent owls that they might answer him. And they would shout across the watery vale and shout again, responsive to his call, with quivering peals and long halloos and screams and echoes loud, redoubled and redoubled, concourse wild of yoke and din. And there came a pause of silence such as baffled his best skill. And then sometimes in that silence, while he hung listening, a gentle shock of mild surprise has carried far into his heart the voice of mountain torrents, or the visible scene would enter unawares into his mind with all its solemn imagery, its rocks, its woods, and that uncertain heaven received into the bosom, not bosom, of the steady lake. Challenge just mesmerized. So, a lot of times, if you like your poem for Wednesday has stanzas, I would paraphrase probably stanza at a time. This one doesn't, but say take a look at the first 6 lines. There was a boy, you knew him well, ye cliffs and islands of Winander. Many a time at evening, when the earliest stars began to move along the edges of the hills, rising or setting, would he stand alone beneath the trees or by the glimmering lake. So within the first 6 lines, essentially, what's happening?
Introducing like the setting.
Okay. And that setting is?
Britain.
Okay. And specifically, like from an environmental standpoint, we're in the woods by the lake, kind of we think of a camping site. There's probably some trees there and there's some cliffs. Who's there in nature? All by himself. Okay? So, boy is alone in nature, taking it all in. Do you get the sense that since he is standing alone, is this lonely boy in nature, or a boy just seems to be content to be on his own in nature? Okay. So this isn't something that, and there was a boy, you knew him well, ye cliffs, islands of Winander. Along with that, many a time, you know him well because he was coming there over and over and over again. So it seems to be something that he is doing on his own accord. And there, with fingers interwoven, both hands pressed closely, palm to palm, and to his mouth uplifted, he, as through an instrument, blew mimic hootings to the silent owls that they might answer him. So, what's the kid doing? While he's alone, he's calling to the owls.
That's what he said first.
He calls to the owls, hoping that they will call back. And this is when people show off their turkey call abilities and all that kind of stuff.
When you go in the ducky store, they give you a duck marker.
Pardon?
When you go in the ducky store downtown here.
No, I mean, who knows if they're coming back?
Yeah, true, but they give you like
A little
this, it
duck
looks like a
whistle thing.
beak and you blow into it. And it makes a duck noise. I can bring it if you guys want it.
Sounds like you want to.
Everyone in my family has one
And they would shout across the watery vale and shout again, responsive to his call, with quivering peals and long halloos and screams and echoes loud, redoubled and redoubled, concourse wild of yoke and din. So he calls out to them. What do?
No bang.
The owls respond. Very happy. Any words in that section that you're not 100% sure about meaning? Where to go? Right there. Yokin? How about, are we okay with din?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And when there came a pause of silence such as baffled his best skill, and then sometimes in that silence while he hung listening, a gentle shock of mild surprise has carried far into his heart the voice of mountain torrents. Tell you what, let's just kind of do this little piece right here. What happens in this line? The owls were responding. Now they stop. This may not be ultimately significant, but from our TPCASTT, title, paraphrase, connotation, attitude, shift, title, theme, title, whichever way you go, what could you argue is happening here in line 16? There's a shift. You know, you're going from all this loud noise to now silence. Then sometimes in that silence, while he hung listening, a gentle shock of mild surprise has carried far into his heart the voice of mountain torrents, or the visible scene would enter unawares into his mind with all its solemn imagery, its rocks, its woods, and that uncertain heaven received into the bosom of the steady lake. This is where generally a lot of folks go, all right, I was good up to here, now I'm not entirely sure. Any ideas how you would try to paraphrase this? Or if you're not sure how to paraphrase it, any specific words jump out where it seems the connotation could at least be significant. May not know why yet, but comes across as being a little different. He's focused, he's studying.
I mean, there is like emphasis on the lake being.
Okay. You know, and like the lake's kind of personified, you know, here at the end. Two lines up above, I would say there's a phrase that jumps out for me. Because it seems kind of playful before, you know, hey, kids calling to the owls. Oh, the owls stopped. And now, not that it's necessarily sad, but there's maybe a little bit more seriousness to the tone, something kind of significant. What do you think would be our visible scene would enter the unawares into his mind with all its imagery, its rocks, its woods, uncertain heaven received into the bosom of the lake? Little Emma goes down to the lake. Around the lake we have, you know, boulders, rocks. We got happy little trees that Bob Ross draws for us. Little Emma taking it all in. What is she going to see in the lake? She's going to see reflection. So if I have trees here, there are going to be trees there. These little rocks that I had, I'll have rocks of them over here. So what would it mean for it to be received into the bosom of the lake? You're getting a picture of it. The heaven, you know, the uncertain heaven up above is going to be shining down into the lake where you kind of get to see it. Oh my goodness, the poem's about Siddhartha. He's listening to the river in the lake. No. But shock of mild surprise carried far into his heart the voice of mountain torrents. Anyone know what mountain torrents would be? Torrents? Pardon? No, we're not talking about files. It's like Emma has an idea.
Wait, no, I don't know.
It's the water that's gonna come down the mountain. So you're basically listening. So you're not hearing the owls anymore, but now you hear nature. You hear the water rushing, and you're taking a look at the scene, and you're seeing basically everything within this picture frame, so to speak, of the lake. So essentially, you're taking in the scenery now at this point. So it comes from something that's a little bit playful to something that is a little bit more, at least for this person, significant. Do we know if he died? Do we know if he grew up? Right now, not sure. We could have some speculation. So here's multiple choice. This is practice. This is ungraded. But at least you get an idea as to, okay, how do these questions kind of look? If we were grading this one, we'd give you 8 minutes to answer it. I bet you won't need 8 minutes. And it's just those 8 questions on the front. There isn't anything on the back. Okay, that was 6 minutes, so you would still have 2 minutes, but a lot of you were starting to kind of wrap up around 4 minutes, and certainly can still be going, no fault of your own. But if you've read it, you think you thought about it, think about it. If you thought about it, hopefully some of the answers kind of start to separate themselves from the other, and having to do 13 questions in 13 minutes or 14 and 14 isn't going to be necessarily a game breaker for you. Wrote some scores up here. And we'll go over the answers. You get a 4 out of 8, that would equate to a 3 AP. If you get a 5 out of 8, that would equate to a 4. 6 out of 8 and higher would be a 5. If we were to grade this one, I would add like 2 points to it. So you would get a 4 out of 8, which would go into the grade book as a 75%. If you were to get a 6 out of 8, that's a 5. That would go in the grade book as a 100%. And if you get something like a 7 or 8, you'd get some bonus points, out of the deal as well. So, speaker recounts the experiences of the boy in the poem with C, nostalgic reverence. Yay! 1 out of 8. You gonna use that term now for your? No.
That is not
Number 2. Which of the following illustrates the rhetorical device of apostrophe? What's apostrophe mean? You're speaking to someone or something that is not present, that is not there. Okay, so certainly understanding the definition of that term comes in handy. Zach, did one of them separate itself for you?
The first one, so it's the only one actually speaking directly.
Okay, ye knew him well, ye cliffs, speaking to the cliff. And the cliffs were there when the boy was there, but this isn't the boy speaking, it would be the poet. That answer is A. So there's like that conversation. And ye, basically, ye is going to be synonymous with you. Okay? You cliffs, you mountains, you keyboard, you knew him well. Go away, little keyboard guy. Yeah, gone. All right, number 3. So right here at the end of 10, after owls, which one of these words would make sense within the context? So blew mimic hootings to the owls until, in, when, so, if, that they might answer him. He blew the mimic hootings so that the owls might answer him. Yokin we weren't sure about. Which of the following is the best rendering of the phrase concourse wild of yokin din? What does din mean?
Loud noise.
It's a loud noise.
I said
If you describe a person as being jocular, they're always like happy, joking around, kind of being a little bit of a goofball. Yokin kind of coming from the same root idea. Okay, so if it is of yokin, then it is a gleeful noise. It is loud. Din is going to be like a clamor. It's not going to be a little whistling sound that is going to take place. The word din, which we're saying loud noise, is most strongly reinforced by which of the following pairs of lines? 3 and 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 14, 15, 20, 21. Knowing that it's a loud noise, which one of these would basically reinforce? Quivering peals, long halloos, screams, echoes loud, 14 and 15. Six could be a little bit tricky if you don't really look at the question. So in context, which is important, the word baffled in line 17 is best interpreted to mean. So, and when there came a pause of silence such as baffled his best skill. I scared people off. Zach, what'd you say?
It's defined, but I don't really know. Between that and
They defied his skill. No matter how well he called out, they still did not respond. It's like defying the odds. They will call back because I'm doing really well, but they are not. Some folks will go, I think, with confused real quick because, well, if I'm baffled, I'm confused about something. But within the context of how the word is getting used, it's not that of silence such as confused his best skill, but it defied, there was not a response, there was not an answer coming back. Number 7, the heaven is uncertain in the sense that it is a reflection that moves. And then number 8, the speaker's experience described is best characterized as C. The questions, and this sounds weird to say, the questions and the answers can also certainly help you with your understanding of the poem. Sometimes after you do it, you go, oh, I think that's what it means now. Okay, I kind of see it coming together. This is not the entire poem. They cut out the second stanza. The second stanza makes it clear that this is a eulogy. So there was a boy who has passed away. This is a remembrance of, like, you know, it was a kid who enjoyed the outdoors. It was a family friend of Wordsworth. So he's doing a remembrance for the boy at his funeral. But it's focusing more on this is what he liked to do. This was, you know, kind of person that you know, enjoyed outdoors and things of that nature. So take a look at the poem. Certainly read over it because that's going to help you a good bit with it. You know, come to answer the questions. But take time with the questions. Look to see what they have. I think that can also certainly help with your interpretation. Again, if you got a 4 out of 8, you know, you passed it. Anything above that, now you're getting yourself into that 4 and you got but if you need you're right. It would be elegy. Yeah, elegy is a poem. We did a literary term quiz on that. Bonus point for the non-graded